Hakoko is a recently graduated student who has just found a job in a small company. He wakes up and greets the dark and travels around the city to make a living, thinking about when he can make money to buy a small house in this city and talk about a girlfriend. It was just such an ordinary day after he discovered that he had a small ability. It was over. On that day, Yangxing wore a helmet and drove his pedal electric motorcycle on an open field. Cool breeze, green trees, fragrance of flowers and plants on all sides. The beautiful scenery of the prairie is a different kind of scenery compared with the tall buildings in the city where I live. It's just, why did I run here? What is this place? The suburbs of the city shouldn't be such a wasteland. And stopped in front of him. What kind of ghosts are the two gringos in ragged clothes and holding dung forks in their hands? The clothes on the two people opposite to Yangxing were almost torn into cloth strips, and because of the sticky air-dried mud, they turned into strands. There was a layer of mud on his face, his hair was unruly, and it was as dirty as rolling in the mud. There is no shop in front of the village. Did you encounter the robbery? Yangxing spoke to two strange foreigners in English, speaking half-year-old. Hello. Good is tricky. Why is Erlang Bridge going? Don't know if they can understand it. These two foreigners seemed to be a little afraid of Yangxing's wheeled mounts, but one of them still pretentiously pushed the dung fork in his hand forward, and then quickly retracted. Then said the hardest words in the most persevering tone, Hey, do you have anything to eat? Hurry. I will hand it over. Yangxing straddled his pedal bike. He looked calm, but he was panicked. He did not take off his helmet, holding the accelerator in his palm, ready to eject and start to escape at any time. Weird, too weird. In the surrounding area of Jihai City, which is rich in land, it is impossible to have such a large area of wasteland that has not been targeted by developers. And Yangxing was pretty sure that he was still on the way to work, but suddenly his eyes flashed, and people even ran on the grass with their motorcycles. Is it crossing? When Yangxing realized that he actually understood the language of the other party that didn't know the accent of the country at all, he was sure that he affirmed and believed that he might have gone through it. Now there are two opponents, one for yourself. Two fists are hard to beat four hands. Even though they all looked hungry for an unknown number of days, the dung fork in their hands was still somewhat deterrent against the unarmed Yangxing. Run! I'm unfamiliar with this place. Isn't he running around looking for death? Be strict, don't be aggressive. Was poked by the dung fork that smelled of dung and stuck to something yellow and yellow. It didn't hurt much, and it was too insulting. Eat? Yes, yes, yes. Yangxing took out a plastic bag from the storage box in the back seat, took out 2 hamburgers from it, and handed it over. I am a passerby, and I have no malice against you. Yes. You can't put down the weapon first, it looks weird and scary. Before Yangxing finished speaking, the smell of wheat mixed with meat scent caused the two people to drop their dung forks and ran up to grab the 2 burgers. Under the nose close-up, the fragrance is more attractive. The two of them didn't even tear off the wrapping paper, they opened their mouths to bite down the hamburger they were holding in both hands. Then hummed contentedly at the same time. This is a delicacy they have never eaten before. The soft bread, refreshing salad, crispy chicken legs with the crispy mouth of lettuce stimulate the taste buds on the whole tongue. Is comfortable and makes the stomach more uncomfortable. 2 people didn't taste this kind of food that they had never eaten before, so they swallowed the whole hamburger in 2 bites. Then they looked at Yangxing together. Hey hey hey! The look in his eyes that he was not full and desperately eager to come again made Yangxing a little bit frustrated. He tossed the emptied bag, indicating that there was no more in it. This is all my breakfast, I have already given it to you. The 2 people were still staring idiotically, seeing Yangxing even more hairy. They don't even want to eat people, right? And just when Yangxing was about to blast the accelerator and drive the motorcycle to escape, after hearing a ding in his ear, a paragraph of text suddenly appeared in his consciousness. Two farmers admire you very much and hope to join your army, agree or not? What's the situation? Who is speaking? The sudden situation was completely beyond Yang Xing's cognition, and he was a little at a loss. Who is the farmer? These two people in front of you? They are like beggars, not farmers. Besides, how can I? Why do they admire me? What does it mean to join my army? What a joke! Two farmers admire you very much and hope to join your army, agree or not? Text and sound appeared in Yang Xing's consciousness again. Is not like a joke. And looking at the appearance of the two farmers in front of me, it seems that if I don't agree with them to join, I will turn my face immediately. Then there is no choice. Agree. Yang Xing made a choice, and the prompt reappeared at the same time. You have gained the following of two farmers. You gain 2 experience, you gain 1 reputation, you are promoted to hero. Please check your personal attribute panel for corresponding functions. What is the property panel? As consciousness flashed in his head, a long column of translucent attribute panels appeared in Yang Xing's field of vision. Yan Xing, Human Race, Level, 1 Occupation, Night Lord Attack, 2 Defense, 4 Intelligence, 2 Knowledge, 2 Heroic Specialty. What the people want: increase the attractiveness of human farmers, increase the efficiency of governance. www.mtlnovel.com. Encouragement: increase the morale of the people and the own army. Hero Stunt, elementary training, in the exclusive training grounds for arms, train low-level arms into advanced arms. Training cost is related to training level, junior leadership, limited and constant improvement of the morale of the citizens and the army. It can be superimposed with the heroic special effects. Primary offensive skills, limited to improve the combat effectiveness of the army, so that your army has a better performance in offensive operations. Skill/magic, charge, speed increase by 50% in a short period of time. For every 1% increase in speed, 1% increase in attack power, collision, impact on the target, causing a knockback effect. Prayer, slowly recover oneself and the injury of the target of the operation. Passionate blood, in the case of reducing a certain defensive capacity, increase the attack power of oneself and allies. Contempt, provocation against the target and increase the target's hatred towards himself. Split air/shield strike. Equipment, none. Achievement, none. Reputation, 1. Looking at his attribute list, Yan Xing looked dazed. Why is it so like playing a game? Can anyone explain? Yang Xing looked up at the azure blue sky, and the black crow flew over his head with a croak. There is a cool breeze, green trees and fragrance of flowers and plants floating on all sides. There is still a burst of stench in the nose. Yang Xing looked down and saw the 2 farmers lying on the ground petting and kissing his electric motorcycles. Hey, what are you doing? Hearing Yang Xing's reprimanding voice, the 2 farmers immediately stopped the pro-electric motorcycles and quickly stepped back and knelt on the ground. Like a bard, he exclaimed in a tuned voice, "Great and generous Master Knight, you rode through the wilderness on a magical mount and came to us. The clothes on your body are so luxurious, the clothes on your head, the helmet is so strong. You brought the most delicious food in the world and gave it to the humble us. After receiving your favor, we are willing to follow you and become your subjects. You provide us with food and protection, and we offer you taxes." Hikoyuki listened, his eyes throbbed. The electric motorcycle bought for more than 1,000 yuan has become a magical mount. Also, let me ask you to provide food and protection. Finding someone to eat for free every day is your real goal, right? Still offering taxes? You are all so poor that your pants are almost gone, and you still have the face to pay taxes. Have you seen tickets worth more than 10 yuan? However, Yang Xing's thoughts stuck at this moment, because he saw the 2 farmers kneeling in front of him respectfully spread their hands, and there was a golden coin-shaped metal lying in their dirty palms. Copper. Yang Xing absolutely does not believe that 2 poor farmers can come up with gold. But this golden coin reflects the sunlight, so dazzling. Yang Xing can't help but think of the big gold bracelet worn by Mrs. Kuo in the city. The color is really the same. Just kidding. Yang Xing pinched the golden coins from the hands of the two farmers, and the two coins touched each other and made a pleasant sound. Is heavy in my hand. Looking at the sun carefully, Yang Xing really can't tell the truth from the fake. However, the patterns and text on the coin are very delicate. The front side of the coin is engraved with a lance shield-shaped coat of arms, and the edge is a wreath of thorns. The back side is an abstract pattern of an angel. Is engraved on both sides with words that Yang Xing has never seen before, but both recognize. Gold blessed by God. Now Yang Xing can't tell the truth from the fake. Hey! Yang Xing said to the two farmers, is this real gold? Return to Lord Knight. The taller peasant replied, this is the gold blessed by the gods. There are rules to give every human peasant to pay taxes to the Lord every week. God bestowed gold can only be used by the Lord and can purchase territorial materials through the law. Only the Lord can convert the Gajavan gold into ordinary gold for daily transactions. It seems that these two golden coins are really gold coins. Gold coins are the size of a dollar coin, about 15 to 20 grams. Is calculated with 15 grams. Now the market value of gold is close to 500 yuan per gram. 15 grams multiplied by 500. Be good. 1 is 7,005, 2 is 15. I only spent $10 on coupons for 2 hamburgers. This transaction is super profitable. And I heard from a tall farmer that they will give me 2 gold coins every week from now on. 15,000 at a time, 60,000 a month. What kind of work is that? Just provide them with delicious food and collect rent on time every week. Wow, ha 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 ha. Yang Xing wanted to laugh out loud, but when the laughter reached his throat, he went back. This is obviously not my original world, and my monthly income is 60,000 yuan. I'm looking at the wasteland where birds don't all around. It's a fart to collect 2 gold coins every week. Take 2 to eat, but can only hand in gold to the subordinates. There is a fart. Although gold is good, you can't eat or drink. You can't even find a charging station for the electricity to charge $1 for an electric motorcycle. Yang Xing regretted giving the 2 burgers to each other. If he can, he really wants to buy 2 hamburgers with the 2 gold coins in his hand. It's too late to regret now, let's face it. At this time, Yang Xing thought of what the tall peasant said. The Lord can use this sacred gold coin to buy territorial materials from the law. Let's see what you can buy, at least buy a knife to defend yourself. What is the law of? With a thought, Yang Xing's attribute panel appeared in his field of vision. Then he discovered that in addition to his own character attributes, there are other optional display pages in the panel. Is really like a game. Yang Xing wanted to click on the territory option, but when he saw that there was a citizen option, he directly clicked on it. There are 2 lonely names in Farmer 1, Farmer 2. There is also an introduction to the attributes of farmers. Peasants, a first-tier unit of the human race, the production labor of a human force. Can be upgraded to a second-tier combat unit. Militia, can be upgraded to a second-tier elite unit. Tax officer, attack, 1 defense, 1 damage, 1 physical strength, 1 talent. Taxpayers, pay a Gajavan gold coin for the Lord every week. Under the supervision of excellent tax officials, they can pay more taxes. Looking at the 4 farmer attributes, Yan Xing immediately felt superior when he looked at his hero attributes. As for the peasant talent taxpayer, Yang Xing, who doesn't know if he can go back, has no interest in just getting gold coins. Let's see what's in the Lord options. But he didn't wait for Yang Xing to click on the Lord option. There were some inconspicuous option buttons in a corner that caught his attention. Quit. What does this mean? Is it quitting the game? Then Yang Xing clicked exit in a wise manner. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. In an instant, wasteland and the 2 newly recruited farmers disappeared from Yang Xing's eyes, replaced by narrow alleys. There are towering buildings on both sides of the alley, and some garbage that has not been cleaned up in time is piled at the root of the wall. In front of a hair salon open at night with its rolling shutters closed, a child who was almost late for school wearing a school uniform and carrying a school bag, quickly ran past Yangxing. In the gap between the buildings in the sky above, a passenger plane that is landing hastily revealed its huge figure. Hakoto confirms that this is the city where he lives, and this alley is the only way for him to go to work. Actually came back. At this time, Yangxing was straddling on the small electric motorcycle, propped on one leg on the ground, unable to believe what he had just experienced. But the hard feeling in the palm of his hand made his heart beat faster. He slowly opened his palms, and 2 gold coins lay there quietly, telling him, what he experienced was not an illusion. Not only did he enter a game state, but he also brought out gold from it. There will be 2 gold coins every week in the future. With an income of 60,000 a month, I can live in this drunken city. If you save a little, buying a house is not a dream. This time it is really going to develop. At this time, Yangxing's cell phone rang suddenly. Take it out to answer, and before Yangxing speaks, there is the roar of the department head, Yangxing, do you want to do it? Not only do you dare to be late, you dare not answer if I call. You see if there is how many missed calls. Do you know if you are still in the trial period, I can let you roll up and leave at any time. The person who called Yangxing is named Yuan, who is in charge of the company's marketing department. In fact, for a small company with more than 10 people, there are only 4 people in the entire business department plus the supervisor. The surname Yuan, relying on his relatives with his boss, and some qualifications, is very arrogant in the company. When Hikoyuki came to the company for the first time, in addition to finishing his own work, he had to be pointed at by his supervisor. Is all kinds of philosophy of life. Yangxing took the phone away from his ears, and waited for the yelling of Yuan, before he said, Lao Yuan. Lao Yuan stimulated the other party again. What Lao Yuan? Can you call Lao Yuan? The boss has to call me my uncle. You young people do not know how to make progress and do not know how to respect your elders. How can I entrust the company's heavy responsibility to you? Xiao Yan. You came to the company for the first time, and you are in contact with society for the first time. There are many things to learn. Yangxing turned the phone to silent directly, and then tucked it into his pocket. Let Lao Yuan speak for himself. I don't know what kind of stimulation he had been in the workplace before, and he became like this. Anyway, the Lord has no time to listen to his philosophy of life. First exchange these 2 gold coins for money, and then figure out that game-like world is the right answer. As for work, Lao Yuan really persuaded the boss to fire himself. There is no way. Can't give up tens of thousands of income for a monthly salary of several thousand yuan. Yangxing put 2 gold coins into his pocket, and then drove the electric motorcycle along the alley. Although the air in the city is far less than the wilderness of the game world, it makes people feel happy, but Yangxing, who feels that he is about to start a new life, is still happy. The only thing that made Yangxing a little dissatisfied, the speed of this tram is really slow. I really want to hurry up and count the money. Thinking of accelerating, the mind appeared, that inexplicable voice suddenly appeared in Yangxing's ear. Skill, charge, activate the electric motorcycle. Driving at a constant speed suddenly accelerates, and you can feel the hip-pushing sensation of the seat being pressed forward under the buttocks. A small wind whispered in my ears, the scenes on both sides quickly flew backwards. Oh my god! Hikoyuki was shocked by his ability to unleash the game world in the real world. It turned out that not only the gold coins were brought out by me, but also the skills can be used. This is a bit big. But I like it. The knight's charge skills can increase the speed by 50/50ths in a short time, allowing the speed of an electric motorcycle to reach new heights. Like a sprinting horse, he walked through the streets and alleys with Yan, and squeaked to a stop in front of a gold store. Yangxing took out the 2 gold coins from his pocket, and they were even more dazzling under the glamorous light, not knowing how much brighter they were than the gold in the gold shop. Gold blessed by God. Because this kind of gold has special power in it, there is no way to change its form through external force. And if the patterns and words on it spread out, I don't know what trouble it will cause me. Fortunately, as a lord, Yangzing has the ability to turn Gajavan gold into ordinary gold. Gold conversion. A stream of light swept across the gold coin, the patterns and words disappeared, and the gold coin became a small golden pancake with a smooth surface. The color returned to the normal brilliance of gold. There is no problem selling it like this. Yangzing stopped the electric motorcycle and walked into the gold shop, took out the gold pancakes and said that he wanted to sell the gold. This kind of private small quantity gold transaction does not have too complicated procedures for gold shops. The authenticity and weight of the gold are verified, and after weighing, it will be delivered with one hand. After not much time, there was an extra 18,000 yuan in Yangzing's mobile wallet. The 2 gold coins are heavier than he thought. At the gate of Jindian, Yangzing rode on his small electric motorcycle, looking up at the surrounding high-rise buildings. My heart is very full. I miss the 2 newly harvested subordinates even more. 2 farmers can contribute 18,000 yuan in taxes for themselves a week, and 20 farmers can contribute 180,000 yuan a week. 200 farmers 1.8 million. 2,000 farmers and 18 million. More. I can't imagine it anymore. Anyway, at this moment, Yangzing made up his mind. These are golden hens that lay golden eggs. Return to the game world as soon as possible, recruit more farmers, and become a golden egg farming tycoon in the city. Of course, breeding. Certainly not allow the recruited farmers to be hungry or cold, but to eat and drink enough, warm in winter and cool in summer, and live comfortably and healthy. Therefore, the money obtained cannot be spent on his own enjoyment. A shrewd businessman must understand investment. Have a long-term vision. So drove his small electric motorcycle to the suburban second-hand market, and reluctantly sold his beloved small car for a few $100s. Then he turned around and spent a few $1,000s to buy a second-hand agricultural tricycle in very new condition. Bought pots and pans, tables, chairs, and benches by the way. I bought a few sets of camping tents. Then there are big bags of flour, rice, oil, salt, sauce, and vinegar, and a pig's hind leg. Green vegetables, meatballs, wide noodles, sesame sauce, mutton. Gas stove, liquefied petroleum gas, nylon rope. All kinds of bits and pieces, filled with a car. Finally, I downloaded the complete works of Survival in the Wild on my mobile phone. Hikoyuki decided to fight hard in the game world to see how many treasures he could make and how much money he could make. How can you fish out the more than 10,000 principal of this flour? After completing the purchase, Yangzing drove the agricultural tricycle Yanga and Yanga out of the outskirts of the city and into the mountainous area. When I saw a small forest with no one, I drilled into it. Log in. The scene changes instantly, and the grove becomes an endless grassland. The sun is shining brightly in the sky, and white clouds are layered on top of each other. The grass on the ground is covered with small yellow wildflowers, and there is a faint fragrance in the breeze. There is no smell of polluted air. I don't know how much fresher it is than that city. It feels like selling the air here is a profitable business. Ha ha ha. Master, master. The 2 farmers who were recruited by Yangzing did not know that they emerged from the grass ball. When they saw the agricultural 3-wheeler driven by Yangzing, they were immediately excited. They rushed up and kissed the tires, and praised, "Great Master Knight, you have conquered a horse that is more powerful than the previous mount in such a short time." Mount. It has a steel body, wheeled limbs, 3 limbs. You are so heroic when riding it. We believe that you can get such a powerful mount to challenge the fiercest dragon at the end of the world. Is there such a thing as a dragon in this world? It seems that this place is very dangerous. If you can be more precise, just be precise. Hey, little ones! Yangzing took out the Lord's aura and shouted to his only two subordinates, "My name is the three-wheeled mount. Not only can it be used for battle, but it can also be transported. It is rare. Valuable mounts. As long as you work hard and wait for the Lord to change your mount, you will be rewarded for the 3 rounds of agricultural use." Now we are all cheering up and moving down the things we pulled behind www.mtlnovel.com. First we set up the camp and cook it in a hot pot. Let's talk about territorial development plans while eating. The 2 farmers heard that the Lord Master would reward themselves with such a precious mount, and immediately knelt on the ground and shouted, "The Lord is wise, the Lord is merciful." Then unload the goods hard. The cargo capacity of agricultural tricycles is limited after all, and Yangzing does not have the money to buy more things. After a while, all 3 of them moved everything to the ground. Yangzing first instructed the 2 farmers to put up the tent, and then moved all the goods into the tent. The tent is made of waterproof fabric, even if it rains, it will not wet the goods. After a busy day, a small camp is initially established. Then Yangzing set up a table in the middle of the camp, and put a gas stove on the table. The gas tank is connected to the gas stove, and a boiling pot filled with water and hot pot bottoms is placed on the gas stove. Hikoyuki turned the switch on the gas stove. With a snap, a blue flame came out of the gas stove. Magic! Seeing that there was no fuel in the gas stove, the 2 farmers went out into flames, and immediately bowed to the ground. "Great Lord, Lord, you are still a great magician. Your power allows you to enslave the flames at will. Elf, let the noble flame elves boil water and cook for you. We are proud to be your subjects. We believe that your territory will prosper soon. A world-famous city will appear here. Your name will be sung from generation to generation by people living in this land. Master, please tell us your family name and family creed. As your subjects, this is also something we must observe and be loyal to. The hillbilly who has never seen the world. Fortunately, there are only 3 of us in this wilderness, otherwise we will be seen by others. This Lord really can't afford to be ashamed. Get up, get up. It's just a trick of carving insects. What are the things that your Lord Master knows more?" Yangzing asked the 2 farmers to stand up, and then let them sit around the table. While distributing the tableware, he said, "Your lord is called Yangzing, whose name implies that you must do what you say. From now on, Master Yangzing, you must do what you say will be your master and my family creed. What is your name? Let me know the master." Yangzing didn't care much about these things, and said casually. When faced with Yangzing and asked for his name, the 2 farmers looked at each other and said in unison, "Lord, Lord, we are untouchables and we have no name." "No name, how do you call it? There are only 2 of us here, no names are needed." The scene fell into silence. Yes, the 2 of them really don't need names. "But," Yangzing said impassionedly, "as a citizen of your Lord Yangzing, how can you not have a name? And this place will definitely prosper in the future, it is not just you 2. Come here, Master, I will give you a name." Yangzing took out the split-screen phone from his pocket, and wanted to use the naming software to name them. There was no signal at the end. "If I can't get on the internet, I have to test Master Yan's naming skills." Both farmers have Western faces, and they must have names with Western style. Of course, as a citizen of Master Yan, I can't lose the Oriental style. "You." Yangzing pointed to a tall farmer and said, "Your name is Gaspa." Then Yangzing pointed at the short farmer and said, "Your name is Eddie." The 2 peasants who were given the name by the Lord cried with joy, and immediately squatted on the ground. "Long live the Lord," and kissed the muddy shoes on Yangzing's feet. "Enough, enough, all get up to eat. Lord, Lord, I still have important things to ask you." Hikoyuki made Gaspar and Eddie stand up and sit down. At this time, the water in the pot is boiling, and the hot pot bottom material melts into the water to form a broth. The splashes of water rolled and the fragrance was tangy, which caused the two farmers to swallow heavily. Yangzing picked up vegetables, meatballs, and meat, and poured them all into the pot regardless of the order, and poured a bowl of urquata for the two farmers. Asked very expectantly, "Wait a minute, you can eat it when you cook it. I want to ask two people, where can I recruit farmers like you who can contribute tax to me every week?" Gosper and Eddie stared at the ingredients in the hot pot, their eyes staring like copper bells. But they dare not give any perfunctory questions to the Lord's question. Gosper replied, "Return to the Lord, Lord. We are all the lowest level farmers, and we don't know a lot. Only know that the Lord's high reputation and the prosperity of the territory can attract the refugees to join, in the farmers' huts in the territory or in the wild. You can recruit farmers bestowed by gods. Then there is a baby. As long as there is food, drink, and protection. Our Terran has a relatively strong ability to give birth to children. Another way is to farmers from other territories. And because Terran farmers' taxation talent is not available to other races, Terran farmers are often looted by other races. This Gosper has a clear idea, it can be cultivated." Hikoyuki also played strategic management games, and quickly figured out how Gosper said farmers recruited. The first is to develop territories and attract refugees with high prestige and high prosperity. Where does this refugee come from? It's a matter of game world mechanics. The second is to build farmer recruitment buildings. If expected, the Lord should be able to recruit farmers from the recruitment building regularly and quantitatively. The third is natural reproduction. This can be regarded as a normal way for the population to increase production. The fourth is looting. Since Terran farmers are the only race that has the gift of paying taxes, this talent determines that the value of Terran farmers has risen to a strategic position. Territory development, order maintenance, and expansion cost countless money behind it. And human farmers can pay a Gajavan gold coin tax out of nothing a week, who is not jealous. Has naturally become a strategic resource that everyone wants to grab. At this time, Yangzing suddenly thought of something. He immediately opened his attribute panel and fixed his eyes on his hero traits. Heroic specialty, what the people want, increase the appeal of human farmers, increase the efficiency of governance. Encouragement, increase the morale of the people and the own army. At that time, Yangzing didn't care when he saw his heroic specialty, and even sneered secretly. Based on the basic attributes of the farmers, what is the use of recruiting more farmers? According to the information currently known about the world, there are dragons and magic here. According to the setting of magic games, the peasant background NPC is not even a monster. No matter how many farmers you have, are they enough to stuff their teeth? But knowing that farmers are the only race that has the talent to pay taxes, Yangzing's eyes are even more different when he sees his talents than when he sees Gosper and Eddie. This talent, the magical skill of recruiting farmers to lay golden eggs. The hot pot is boiled again, and the flavors of various ingredients are mixed together to make the index finger move even more. Yangzing graciously used a colander to fill a large bowl of food for the two farmers, and then picked up the bowl and said very Liangshan, "Today is the first day we met. Thanks to the love of the two brothers, willing to follow me, work hard with me for a career. I don't know how to say anything in the scene, so I'll talk about something real. As long as you loyally follow me and work hard, ensure that you eat fragrant and spicy food, drink alcohol, and eat meat every day. Who dares to bully us? The Lord himself took you to cut his mother. Come, do this bowl first, deepen and deepen your feelings." Gosper and Eddie picked up the wine bowls and shouted in unison, "Master Yangzing, you must do what you say." Yangzing did not expect that the family creed he said casually would still be so emotional when he shouted together. He laughed and said, "Yes, Master Yangzing, you must do what you say." The three of them drank the wine in the bowl together. Gao Baigan, the peasant who drank high alcohol for the first time, coughed again and again. Yangzing smiled and said, "Eat, eat, eat. Eat more and drink more, enough wine and meat. Food and wine, under the stimulation of alcohol, Gosper and Eddie are no longer restrained. Regarding Yangzing's question, the two of them must answer every question. Gradually let Yangzing get a general idea of the world. The wasteland they are in is part of the High Winds. To the south of Gale Highlands is the Silvermane Principality of the human race, ruled by Grand Duke Trolop Griffin. To the east of the highland is an inland sea, which is connected to the outer sea through a long and narrow strait. The west is a tribe of wasteland orcs. The north is a community of snow elves. The coastline between the east and the inland sea of Gale Highland has a very large topographical drop, and there is almost no convenient and direct path to the sea. Therefore, the Gale Highland has become the main point surrounded by the human race, the orc race, and the elven race. Whoever occupies the High Winds can form a strategic geographical advantage over the other two ethnic forces. In this area, the Flying Army and the Magician Group are condescending, allowing them to be like a throat. It is also because the strategic location of the Gale Highlands is too important, and there are frequent battles for the Gale Highlands between the human race, the orcs, and the elves. The war caused the three parties to sacrifice a large number of soldiers on this highland, and it also caused a high level of hatred among the three clans. Now, Gale Highlands are mostly controlled by the Silvermane Principality. Wasteland orcs and snow elves only maintain few data points in the west and north. They are all hoarding heavy troops in their strongholds, and they are doing their best to strengthen the defenses of the strongholds. While preventing the human race from completely occupying the High Winds, it also prepares for a new battle for the High Winds. The general of the Duchy of Silvermane stationed in Gale Highlands is the Marquis of Lam Anderson, known as the Marquis of Storm. He commanded the human army in the battle for the High Winds with the orcs and elves. He changed the strategy of the previous human race instead of hoarding resources and the army to decide the victory or defeat of the war and several battles. Instead, the family's wealth was used to build a fast road between the Gale Highlands and the Terran territory, and then the road was used to quickly transport supplies, and the first human city, Storm City, was built on the Gale Highlands. Next, the Marquis of Anderson continued to adhere to the principle of avoiding war with the orcs and the elves. UU reading www.uugonshu.com even secretly instigated the outbreak of fighting between the two clans. On the other hand, took the Storm City as the base point in a low-key manner, concentrated heavily on protecting the lines of communication, continuously radiated outwards to build human cities, and encroached on the land of the High Winds. When the orcs and elves realized the strategy implemented by the Marquis of Anderson, it was too late. The Marquis of Anderson created a human city cluster on the south side of the High Winds. It has its own economic system, agricultural system, and military training system, and its reliance on the support of the Silvermane Principality at the rear has been greatly reduced. Looking at the orcs and the elves, they still follow the previous war ideas. The special topography of the High Winds makes it difficult to build convenient roads and extremely inconvenient transportation. Therefore, their struggle for the High Winds is to spend a lot of manpower and material resources behind, take small roads or use air transportation to slowly hoard the troops and materials needed for war in several military strongholds on the high ground. The efficiency is very slow. Neither the orcs nor the elves have the ability to fight a long war with the human race on the High Winds. They can only watch the Marquis of Lam Anderson complete the cannibalization of the Highlands. Now the two clans can only maintain military strongholds on the edge of the Highlands, and a certain degree of cooperation is needed to ensure their existence on the High Winds. Gosper's understanding of the world is also limited to the High Winds. As for what is going on in other places, he does not know, and of course he can't explain clearly. In short, the High Winds where Hikoyuki is currently located are somewhat independent of this world, and at the same time, it has formed a situation similar to a three-legged camp. The strong human race faces the orcs and elves who have to unite, making the local area stable for a short time. Yangzing didn't expect his initial position to be so sinister that he couldn't help looking around. The sky has darkened unknowingly. When the moon is in the sky, the stars flicker. The wind continued to blow, making Yangzing always feel that there was something hidden in the nearby weeds. The 3 agricultural wheels next to were silhouetted under the light of the fire, and the shadows of the 3 people were reflected on the tent. Yangzing asked the 2 subordinates in a low voice, "Will you meet orcs and elves here?" Gosper, who likes to talk, replied, Lord, our place is in the east of Gale Highlands, near the Ris Inner Sea, and far from the orc stronghold in the west. Orcs will basically not come here. To the north is a large swamp area with swamp tribes living in it. These things that are rolling in the mud have never participated in the battle of the 3 clans on the high winds, and the 3 clans could not beat them in the swamp. Therefore, the elves rarely pass through the swamp to get here. Even the noble lords of the human race don't look down on this place. Why? Yangzing was puzzled. Since this place is not threatened by orcs and elves, isn't it a good place for farming? Gosper replied, because there is no forest and no stones. There is no way to build a logging yard and a quarry, so you cannot collect wood and stones. Building a territory consumes a lot of wood and stone. You can't collect it yourself, you can only buy it from other places. Although this is not the main area of confrontation between humans, orcs, and elves, it is not considered safe. Approaching the swamp again, the Marquis of Anderson was unwilling to provoke the swamp clan, so he did not build a city here. Other nobles could not get assistance from Storm City, and were unwilling to build a city here at the risk of offending the swamp tribe at their own expense. Hikoyuki kept nodding as he listened. In short, this wasteland is of little strategic significance to the human forces. Orcs will not run across the windy highlands from the west to the east. It is also difficult for the elves to cross the swamp territory to reach here. And the resources here are poor, so development and defense are of little significance to the human race. If you accidentally offend the swamp tribe, you lose a natural barrier to the elves. Therefore, this wasteland has become a tense windy highland, a place of balance formed by many factors. The only thing that can threaten here in a short time is probably the swamp clan in the swamp on the north side. So Yangzing asked, will the swamp clan come here? Gosper replied, swamps must be active in the swamp. However, their werewolf patrol team sometimes patrols here, but it will not stay for too long. Because the human race is powerful on the high winds, the swamp race will not easily embarrass the human race they encounter. But if they meet a human farmer, they will definitely rob them. After all, they are also jealous of the tax we can contribute each week. As expected, wealth is the root of all evil. Who doesn't love farmers who can lay golden eggs with a little grain? Now Yangzing has 2 peasants in his hands. If he encounters a patrol from the Marsh clan, he is probably a peasant. Eat, eat, eat. If you have the master, no one can take you away. Yangzing greeted his subordinates to eat and drink warmly. After seeing Yangzing's mount and magic, both Gosper and Eddie were very confident in Yangzing's strength, and they were very relaxed about eating and drinking. While Yangzing is in a heavy mood. Although this grassland is a little safer, it is also in the 4 world wars, the high winds. There is another swamp clan next to it, and it is difficult to predict misfortune and good fortune. Although he is a human knight hero now, his combat power is not much better than that of 2 peasants. The camp is surrounded by dangers and it is really not a good place for farming. But they are very strange to this world. Gosper and the others don't know anything outside of Gale Highlands. Blind transfer is no different from death. We must do a good job in the defense of the camp as soon as possible. At the same time, we also need to improve our own strength and the strength of the territory as soon as possible. Of course, I am not without advantages. Being able to drive an agricultural tricycle to pull supplies from the real world, and to bring the gold and skills here back to the real world, it means that I can be the faller of the 2 worlds. Make the difference from it. Isn't this the purpose of returning to this game world? And it is backed by a real network platform, sitting on the world's commodity channel chain, without wood or stone, the master can build a house here like steel or cement. Of course, the blueprint for the future is good, but it is still difficult now. Territory is poor and white, Yangzing himself is also a pauper. How to use limited funds and resources to cope with the current predicament is an urgent need to solve. Is to build a fence for the camp with bricks and cement. You also need money to buy it. Yangzing is short of money. Let's take a look at the Lord's authority first. What can I do to help? Yangzing's consciousness sank into the personal data panel, and finally opened the Lord's realm management entry. There are so many different categories, subdivided into various categories. A vertical domain builds an upgrade tree, presenting a huge domain system in front of Yangzing. Yangzing spent a long time studying on the upgrade tree of the territory, combining his previous knowledge of strategy games, and then figured out how to develop a human territory. The root of Terran territory is to develop around farmers. After being recruited by the human lord, the peasants automatically obtain the status of civilians in the territory. In addition to contributing 1 Gajavan gold every week as taxes, they can produce various materials through labor, and the transaction of materials will generate territorial taxes. Lord can use taxation to develop territory. According to the size of the territory, reading www.yukanshu. The Lord of Com can get a certain amount of Gajavan gold every week. The main source of gold bestowed by other races is this way. This is also the reason why other races covet human farmers. Even within the human race, the peasants are the resources that the lords rob each other. Therefore, while the Terran lords benefit from the farmers, they must also do everything possible to protect their farmers and attract more farmers to join the territory. Involves the prosperity of the territory and popular support. Highly prosperous territories are highly attractive to refugees and will also attract farmers from low prosperity territories to migrate. Mingson refers to the support rate of the civilians in the territory to the Lord. In territories where people's hearts are high, people living and working in peace and contentment will basically not leave their territories. In territories where people's sentiments are low, the people feel that they have no life and safety, so they will try their best to leave. Prosperity and popular sentiment are very complicated things, and many factors can affect them. But as long as the Lord takes care of the daily necessities of the civilians, without natural and man-made disasters, the prosperity of the territory and popular sentiment will not be too low. Yangzing bought a few sets of wear-resistant underwear, and asked Gosper and Eddie to change them in a while. Food, the two of them were eating happily, and they brought enough food for the three of them to eat and drink for a month. Live in. Although the canvas rainproof tent is not very good, it is no problem to live for a while. Okay, where they want to go, the Lord himself opens the farm and sends them to them in 3 rounds. This territorial service is in place, right? Therefore, Yangzing is still not worried about losing the hearts of the people, so Gosper and Eddie are thinking about buggering when they are full of hot pot. Now let's see how to build the defense and military power of the territory. Now there is nothing in Yangzing's territory. In the territory construction option, there is a gray icon that does not meet the construction conditions. The only things that can be built are residential houses, roads, wells, logging yards, quarries. There is also a village-level assembly hall, which requires 10 people from the territory to build it. With Yangzing's own territory of only 3 people, there is no need to think about how to build a village-level council for the time being. Just now, Gosper also said that there is no need to build lumber yards and quarries, because there is nothing to harvest. The remaining residential building requires 100 gold coins, 1 unit of wood, and 1 unit of stone. Village level road, 100 meters requires 100 Gajavan gold coins and 3 units of stone. Water well, 1 requires 100 Gajavan gold coins and 1 unit of stone. Water is not guaranteed. Is this a money grab? Yangzing was shocked after reading the cost of the territory building. I just received 2 gold coins, and both secretly made a lot of money. You need 100 Gajavan gold coins for a residential house, and the real-world exchange is 900,000 yuan. This is a luxurious villa to be built. There is another 100 meters of village level roads for 100 gold. It costs 100 gold to dig a well, and water is not guaranteed. Thinking of money and crazy, right? This is still just a Gajavan gold coin that is only needed. The wood and stone needed later cannot be changed even if Yangzing is rich. Fortunately, this is the price of the Lord system, and it is a building that is directly transformed from the consumption of Gajavan gold coins and materials. Although it spends a lot of money, it pays off quickly. I don't want to spend the money, and it's okay to build it in a normal way. As long as it meets the quality standards recognized by the Lord system, it is recognized as being included in the territory system. Compare with buying directly from the territory system. Of course, the normal way of construction costs less, but the construction period is long, and the quality may not meet the standards. Anyway, Yangzing has no money or resources, and there is no way to buy it from the system. Rich. I can't be taken advantage of. Master, how much can I spend to buy some bricks and cement from the real world? A brick is 50 cents, and I can buy 1.8 million yuan for 100 Gajavan gold coins. Not to mention building residential buildings, I have no problem building a wall and enclosure. But I don't have a single gold coin in my hand, and a penny is hard for a hero. This hot pot meal costs so much money, it's a bit extravagant. It's time to cook instant noodles. Other things such as the Magic Guild, the Colosseum, the Opera House, the Temple, the Night Training Ground, etc. You don't need to look at such buildings. There is no money to build, and it does not meet the construction conditions. The village level assembly hall is the pre-building for all buildings except residential houses, roads, wells, logging yards, and quarries. To build a village level assembly hall, 500 gold and a population of 10. This is very painful. After reading the territorial system, Yangzing found that apart from adding blockages to himself, he had little gain. Regardless of the 500 gold needed to build the village level assembly hall, the population needs to reach 10, and Yangzing doesn't know where to recruit the missing 7 people. Ugh! Drink alcohol and eat meat. By guarding these 2 farmers, you can also run to a well-off society. Yangzing, who couldn't think of a way, simply stopped thinking about it. Grabbing the ingredients in the hot pot, sipping wine. While the 3 people were eating and drinking, Eddie, who had not spoken much, suddenly stared at the dark area outside the camp and shouted, "Hey, who is there?" Yangzing was very alert. Hearing Eddie noticed something approaching, he immediately rushed to the farm tricycle. Took out a 1-meter-long steel pipe from the car body. This is a self-defense weapon he bought for himself. And Gosper and Eddie have picked up their respective dung forks, and pointed them in the direction where the sound was coming out with great momentum. "Please don't hurt us." A slightly old voice came from the darkness where the fire could not reach the light, and then an old man with a dung fork as a walking stick slowly approached. His body was thin, his back was bent from hunger, and he staggered. Followed the old man with 2.5 children, cringingly clutching the corner of the old man's clothes, and looking at the 3 Yangzing in fear. I saw that it was a human being, or old and weak. Yangzing retracted the steel pipe and asked the old man, "Everyone is a human race, and we will not hurt you. Are you hungry? We still have something to eat here. Please fill your stomach first." Gosper said, "This is our Lord Yangzing Master. Master Yangzing will do what he says, and he will not hurt you if he says that he will not hurt you. Come in and eat, this is a delicacy you have never eaten before, and it is a gift from Master Yangzing to you." And Eddie took the dung fork and walked into the darkness without a word. The scent of hot pot has long been diffused. The old man and his children followed the fragrance all the way, and hunger made them ignore the possible dangers of this camp. Seeing that there were also humans in this camp, and one of them was a Lord Master, the old man immediately took the child and knelt on the ground. Lord, please save our shack." Hearing the shack, Yangzing suddenly felt energetic. When he was looking at the territory system just now, he saw that there was a shed inside. Shack, it is a recruitment building for Terran farmers. It can be built through the Terran territory system www.mtlnovel.com. There are also random huts in the wild. The hut generates a certain number of farmers every week for recruitment. It's really dozing off and someone gives a pillow. The master was still worrying about how to build a village council meeting with 10 people, and then someone brought news about the shed. This shack, my master wants it. Yangzing helped the old man and the child up, and said cordially, old people don't need to be polite. We are all human races, and we should help each other if we have difficulties. First, please tell us what difficulties your shack has encountered. Get the grain and grass to rescue. Ding! You accept the task of rescuing the farmer's hut. Task description: a swamp tribe werewolf patrol team discovered a newly born farmer's hut. They occupied the shed and captured the farmers inside. You received a peasant who had escaped calling for help, and you were filled with righteous indignation at the werewolf's actions. Righteous, you decide to lead your own army, take back the hut from the werewolf, and rescue the stolen peasants. Task reward: ownership of the shed, 14 farmers, 100 Gojavan gold coins, 1 unit of stone and 1 unit of wood. Mission failed, reputation -100. When did I feel filled with righteous indignation? Why are you still fighting a werewolf? Yangzing heard the old man say about saving the shed, thinking that the peasant inside was about to die of starvation, and he could solve it by sending a bag of grain. Who thinks the werewolves of the swamp tribe took over the hut? It's unscientific to talk about how you, old and too young, escaped. Hikoyuki feels that what he said is a bit too big. He should ask the situation carefully before choosing whether to answer or not. Now letting myself take 2 farmers to fight the werewolf patrol, it is really life-threatening. It's too late to regret. Yangzing now only has 1 reputation, and 100 points will be deducted if the mission fails. Lord, reputation is very important for the development of the territory. If the reputation is not good, who will defect in the future? Of course, if it is really a death mission, Yangzing will not account for the gain or loss of personal reputation. Still, ask the specific things clearly first. Only by knowing oneself and the enemy can one decide whether to save or not. It's not time to save people. Eat something, drink some hot soup. Then tell the Lord what you have encountered. Yangzing greeted the elderly and children into the camp, and told Gosper, more for the children, cook some meat, you are so skinny when hungry. Regardless of whether the peasant who was captured by the werewolf can be rescued, the old and the young have been regarded by Yangzing as his own. Seeing the hungry and feeble appearances of these 3 young and old, Yangzing felt very distressed. Fill up the stomach first, then talk about things. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. The old man thanked Yangzing repeatedly and took the 2 children to the hot pot. While Gosper was fishing for food from the pot, Eddie walked back with a dung fork and said to Yangzing, Master, there is no other thing around. Yangzing realized that Eddie had just checked the surrounding situation. My vigilance is still too low. Yangzing secretly reviewed himself, and at the same time felt that Eddie, who is not very talkative, might still be a manufacturable. When Yangzing returned to the hot pot, the old man and the child were gorging on the pile of food on the plate. They are really hungry, and they really haven't eaten this delicious food. Sure enough, the chaotic stew of hot pot is loved everywhere. After the old man finished eating a plate of food, Yangzing asked Gosper to serve him some more. Then he sat next to him and began to ask them what happened to the werewolf patrol. The werewolves of the Swamp Clan and Yangzing have very different perceptions of werewolves in film and television dramas. In the Marsh tribe, the werewolf is in the same position as the peasant in the human tribe, and belongs to the first-order creature of the Marsh tribe. But they are both first-order creatures, and their combat effectiveness is really different. After having the first-tier taxpayer group, the peasants, the human race also lost an entire basic level of military power. Although the first-tier creatures of other races are not like farmers who can pay taxes every week, they are all combat units from the first tier, and all the people are soldiers. It can be said that there are gains and losses. Werewolves are not a powerful race in this fantasy world, but they can beat a group of farmers. The 10 werewolf patrols dealt with the dozen farmers in the shed. They were really caught up in their hands, and they were subdued with no effort. The old man and the child escaped because they were not in the shack at the time. Before dawn, the werewolves will bring my relatives into the swamp. They will lock up the captured human farmers and collect taxes every week. But humans are not adapted to the swamp environment and will quickly get sick and die. Dear Lord, please be sure to save my family. The old man pleaded again. Now Yangzing understands, the location of the shack is in the north, about 15 kilometers from the camp he built, and about 20 kilometers from the swamp area. Means that his camp is 35 kilometers away from the edge of the swamp area. The distance is said to be far or near, but it will be sooner or later that the swamp clan discovers it. Therefore, it is the best strategy to deal with the conflicts with the swamp tribe as far as possible. Then, the swamp patrol that occupied the hut had a total of 10 werewolves. Even though the werewolves are tier 1 swamp creatures, they can't be dealt with directly by adding a few farmers. But it was only 10 werewolves. With mental arithmetic and unintentional, trying to find a way may not be able to take back the huts and the captured farmers. As for how to use? Let's first go and see what a werewolf is like and the geographical environment where the hut is located. Are you full? Yangzing asked the old man, do you have a name? After eating another plate of food, the old man replied with a full hiccup, I'm full. Dear Lord, we untouchables have no names. How come there is no name? In the future, the territory will become larger, and an official who specially named these farmers must be appointed. Taking note of what to do in the future, Yangzing said to the old man, the Lord will call you Lohans. When you are full, let's do it. Go find the werewolf and take the Lord my farmer's hut back. Lohans heard that Master Yangzing was about to send troops to rescue the shack and his family, and immediately stood up with a dung fork, I will now lead the Lord and your army to the shack. At this time, Gosper said to Yangzing worriedly, Master, there are 10 werewolves. Although you are brave, you are 10 werewolves. Gosper repeatedly emphasized that there are 10 werewolves in the shed, and obviously he has no confidence in Yangzing's battle this time. Yangzing said with great pride, 10 werewolves, that is, there are 1,000 werewolves. In your master, I am also a scorpion. Gospar, you stay at the camp and take good care of your belongings and children. Prepare food for a dozen people and wait for us to return from victory. Lohans and Eddie take your weapons and go out with this master. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com this time, your lord, I'm going to ride north on my own without breaking the shack. 3 adult farmers raised their dung forks together and shouted in unison, Master Yangzing is mighty. Master Yangzing, you must do what you say. The 2 children who were immersed in eating also echoed unevenly together, Master Yangzing, you must do what you say. Ha ha ha. The aspirations and encouragement of the people in the heroic special effects are awesome. This morale leverage. Yangzing waved his hand, go out. Take the army out to fight, of course you can't walk on 2 legs. So Yangzing took 2 horses and placed them in the 3-wheeled agricultural carriage, and let Eddie and Lohans sit on them. Eddie didn't dare to sit down when he said nothing. This is a strange animal mount that the Lord has just taken over. Can a pariah like us sit on it? Yangzing kicked Eddie's and shouted, you are so fast, let you sit down. Waiting for Eddie to climb into the car, squat on the horse with a dung fork. Yangzing grabbed Lohans who was kissing the tire of the tricycle and threw it into the car. Yangzing sat in the driving chair of the farm tricycle, holding the handle with both hands, looking ahead. It is the moon and the wind is high, and the surroundings are full of xiao xiao killing intent. Put on the helmet, turn the key, and the electric current is connected to the electric motor from the battery. Put down the handbrake, turn on the headlights, put the reverse gear and slowly reverse the tricycle. Hit the left turn signal again and turn to the forward gear to make a U-turn. Finally put on the gas. Yangzing drove his farm tricycle and pulled his army quickly into the night. Gosper took the two children with his dung fork, looking at the direction of Master Yangzing's departure. Haven't left for a long time. The electric farm tricycle didn't make much noise when driving. Yangzing just drove the car bumpy on the deserted grassland like this. Was dim, and the beam of the tricycle headlight illuminates the ground not far away, and it swayed with the ups and downs of the terrain. At this moment, under the unknown starry sky, Yangzing had lost his way long ago. Fortunately, Lão Hans was very familiar with the environment of this grassland and directed the army toward the location of the shed. Feels like Big Dipper is high, Ge Shi is carrying a knife. Ran all the way, and it took nearly 2 hours to reach the vicinity of the shed. Yangzing guessed that the werewolf must have a very good nose, so he drove the agricultural three-wheeler and spared a small circle to the east-leeward position and stopped far away. Then he took Lohans and Eddie quietly up a gentle and got down on the reverse slope. Hidden his body in the grass and crawled forward slowly. There are humming of insects one after another around, making the night seem quieter. When Yangzing climbed to the top of the gentle slope, through the gap between the grass, one could clearly see the bonfire that was burning 200 meters ahead. There is also a shack in the bonfire. Huts are built with shrubs and dried thatch, which are not only low but also leaky on all sides. Even the werewolves of the swamp tribe don't want to live in huts. Most of the werewolves lay directly on the ground sleeping around the bonfire, and there were 3 werewolves standing a little further away to be on guard. The captured Terran peasants were with vine ropes and sat surrounded by werewolves. Yangzing took out a telescope to observe the werewolf patrol. The height of the werewolf is not much different from that of the human race. The shape is the wolf with the hind limbs upright, but the front limbs are flexible and can hold things like a human hand. Most werewolves wear straw armor made of reeds, and their weapons are bony shackles. The equipment is a bit rudimentary, but compared to the rags worn by human farmers and the dung fork in their hands, it is extremely well equipped. And Yangzing also saw a special werewolf. He is bigger, and he wears a half-length hard leather armor. The hammer on the yoke is not bone, but a barbed iron ball. Listening to Lohans's account, Yangzing knew that the Great Werewolf is an advanced unit of werewolves and a second-order creature of the Swamp Clan. This big werewolf should be the little leader of this patrol team. Hard to fight, really hard to fight. Not to mention that there is a big werewolf in this patrol team, that is, the 9 werewolves, it is not possible to deal with it by himself and 2 farmers. Hikoyuki is very self-aware of his own strength. Even with the name of the Lord Hero, it is also a first-level novice. If the opponent is just 1 or 2 Tier 1 werewolves, Yan Xing or Zhu Wang, who has just drunk half a caddy of old white werewolves, dare to go up and fight. Now just give him a pound of vigorously, he doesn't dare. Eddie and Lahans certainly cannot be counted on, so this battle cannot be attacked but outsmarted. Yangzing led 2 farmers slowly climbing down from the top of the slope, and then whispered to them, "You 2 are here to monitor these werewolves. Master, I will go get some weapons to deal with these werewolves. Remember. Until I come back, no one is allowed to act rashly." Eddie and Lahans nodded, "Master, we dare not move." Ugh! Thinking about the long way to go to develop his territory, Yangzing can only sigh and return to his farm tricycle. Ride a tricycle to call up the personal attribute menu. Opt out. Yangzing and his agricultural three-wheeler appeared in the grove that he entered. The real world at this time has also entered the night, and after going out of the woods, you can see the bright lights of the city not far away, dimming the moon. The stars are even more invisible. Yangzing drove the agricultural three-wheeled motorcycles Yangji and Yangji back to the outskirts of the city, and stopped in front of a lo-mei shop in a commercial street. Boss! Yan Xing Liang, who entered the door, shouted in his voice, "Weigh me 40 caddies of braised pork." There is a glass window on the counter of Luo's shop, and there are saucepans on the table behind the glass window. There is a small fire under the stew pot, the marinade in the pot is tumbling, and the large pieces of meat are lying in the marinade. The red and bright color of the sauce can arouse people's appetite. The owner of the Luo shop is a fat middle-aged woman. Hearing that someone was going to buy 40 caddies of braised pork at a time, she immediately greeted her with a smile. "Young man, did you improve the food at the construction site? Tell you, I use a secret recipe that has been passed down for 100 years. I guarantee that you have eaten it once, and I want to eat it a second time. You want to buy that kind of braised pork, and auntie will help you choose the worst and most delicious." "Ha ha ha! Boss, I can smell your meat from far away, it's definitely authentic Luo flavor." Yang Xing gave the proprietress a bit sweetly, then looked at the more than 20 kinds of Luo flavors behind the glass window, and said 10 caddies of pork head, 10 caddies of large intestine, and 10 caddies of braised pork belly. You can give me 5 elbows. I want them all. 5 big elbows are more than 10 caddies. This business allows her shop to directly receive more than 2,000 yuan. Seeing this rare big customer makes the fat boss smile more like a flower. Yang Xing took out his mobile phone to make a quick payment, and then said, "If you want to trouble the boss, you can chop these meaty bones and mix them together." The fat boss heard this strange request for the first time, and asked, "Young man, the meat is chopped into small pieces and mixed together. www.mtlnovel.com. How are you going to eat it?" Yang Xing took the cell phone to let the fat boss see the successful payment information on it, and said, "How do we eat? You don't have to worry about it. You can do it first, and then put it in a big bag. I have to buy some other things. Are there any dried fruits on this street?" The fat boss no longer asks if the customer requests it. Anyway, the money has been given, and people are willing to mix the 4 kinds of meat to eat. That is their business. In response to Yang Xing's question, the fat boss said, "There is a dried fruit seller, go out and walk to the left. There is a dried fruit shop less than 50 meters away. There are all kinds of dried fruit there." "Thank you, boss." After asking the location of the dried fruit shop, Yang Xing walked out. After a while, Yang Xing returned to the Luo shop with a large bag of nuts with a round shell. The fat boss also cut so much meat into a large plastic bag, and enthusiastically moved so much meat to help Yang Xing on his farm tricycle. So much meat, sure enough for those werewolves. Yang Xing put the dried fruits he bought in the cart, waved goodbye to the fat boss who was smiling at the entrance of the Luoyi shop, and then drove the farm tricycle toward the grove when he came. "Bring up the template of the game world and choose to enter." Yang Xing drove his agricultural 3-wheeler back to where he left off. Seeing the Lord's return, Eddie and Lahans immediately greeted them cautiously, and then they smelled the rich smell of meat in the carriage. "Master, what do you bring so much meat?" Yang Xing replied, "Of course it was for the werewolves. This master never takes advantage of the dangers of people in war. He feeds these werewolves first, and we will attack them again tomorrow morning." "What? What? Come and work." Yang Xing took out the nuts he bought separately and said to the 2 farmers, "These things are called macadamia nuts. You 2 open the shell and take the nuts inside, and then use a stone. The nuts are crushed and sprinkled on the meat. Move faster, sir, where am I waiting to give food to those werewolves?" said Yang Xing. Took out a macadamia nut to demonstrate to 2 farmers. The macadamia nut shell is hard and smooth, and it is troublesome to peel. However, the merchant was very thoughtful and saw a small cut in the husk in advance. Customers only need to pry open with the small iron piece provided by the merchant, and they can eat it easily. Yang Xing opened a macadamia nut, took out the nut inside, threw it into his mouth and chewed it. "Is crispy and fragrant, it's really a good snack." Then Yang Xing gave Lahans and Eddie the much-needed iron pieces, and asked them to peel the macadamia nuts. The Lord can do whatever he wants. As a citizen, just listen to orders. Since the master wants to feed these werewolves and then fight them, this shows that the master is powerful and upright, and is a true knight. Let's just listen to the Lord's instructions. Yang Xing's self-confidence gave Lohans and Eddie great confidence, and the two immediately squatted on the ground and started to work around a bag of nuts. Farmers have strong hands and skills. After peeling 2 or 3, Lohans and Eddie mastered the skill of peeling this kind of nut. Take out the nuts inside, smash them with stones and sprinkle them on the stewed meat. But it was tormenting to smell the meat but didn't dare to eat it. After a while, Eddie couldn't help but ask Yang Xing lying aside, "Master, this meat is too fragrant, can we have some?" Yang Xing lay on the meadow by the side, with the dog's tail grass in his mouth, and looked up at the stars with pillows in both hands. The dazzling stars makes it easy to fall into it. Hearing Eddie's greedy mouth, Yang Xing spit out the dog's tail in his mouth and said, "Eat if you want, so much meat, how could those werewolves finish eating?" With Yang Xing's permission, Eddie grabbed a piece of fat with skin into the entrance. The fat melts in the mouth, it is fragrant but not greasy, so people can't help but swallow it all. Then Eddie ate another macadamia nut, with emotion in his heart. "I have been with the Lord for less than a day and ate the most delicious things in the world." Rayahans also ate while drying. Yang Xing grabbed a handful of macadamia nuts and climbed to the top of the to watch the werewolves in the shed. The werewolves are still sleeping, but the guards have changed a group, which shows that the werewolf patrol team is still very vigilant. Yan Xing continued to watch, crawling in the grass, expecting the werewolves of this world to be of the same physique as their close relatives on the earth. Macadamia nut is a nutritious delicacy, and eating it as a snack has many benefits for the body. But once a dog eats this kind of nut, severe symptoms of poisoning will appear. Weakness, depression, vomiting, shaking, loss of body control, muscle cramps, mental disorders. Coma at light, death at worst. Wolves and dogs are a family. Although these werewolves have people in their names, they seem to be canines walking upright. Then feed them macadamia nuts first. If it doesn't work, sir, I'll go back and buy lime powder. After a while, Eddie whispered from the bottom of the slope, "Master, we're all done." Yang Xing descended from the slope, and the two farmers had already smashed all the macadamia nuts and mixed them in the meat. They were not afraid that the werewolves would single out these nuts. "Good job!" Yang Xing praised the two farmers who had dumped the big bales of meat into the three-wheeled agricultural cart, and then sat in the driver's seat and said, "Master, I'm going to deliver food to the werewolves now. You can hide here honestly and don't be discovered by them." "Yes, sir. We must be hiding tightly." Yang Xing drove 3 agricultural wheels to leave, and turned around in a circle to the northwest of the shed. This is the coast, and the wind blows from the northwest to the southeast at night. Just now Yang Xing and them hid on the east side of the shed, their scent would not be smelled by the sensitive werewolves along with the airflow. After Yang Xing came to the northwest of the shed, he took the big bag of meat off the tricycle and placed it on the ground, and then opened the bag wide. The fragrant meat suddenly overflowed, and then drifted towards the shanty area by the wind. This smell is absolutely super irritating to the smell of canines. All the werewolves who were still asleep opened their eyes almost at the same time, jumped up from the ground, and faced the direction of the fragrance of meat together, sniffing quickly. Halazi kept dripping down the corner of his mouth. But the alertness kept the werewolves from losing their minds. On the high winds, they are hunters facing human farmers, and they may be prey facing other things. But this fragrance is really weird. The werewolves looked at the big werewolf headed together. He was the leader of this patrol team. "All werewolves are on alert, and be optimistic about the farmers we caught." The big werewolf roared and pointed out 2 werewolves and said, "You, and you, go and look in that direction. Be careful, go here if you are in danger. Run." "Yes, Chief." The 2 werewolves who were named took the chain yoke and walked carefully in the direction where the fragrance was floating, still dripping from the corners of their mouths. The great werewolf on guard kept barking his teeth and growled at his opponents. He knows how tempting this kind of smell is to the werewolves. He can feel that this kind of smell that floats must have a conspiracy in it. www.mtlnovel.com. He must constantly warn his subordinates to stay sensible, although his saliva is also flowing. After a while, the two werewolves sent out came back and brought in a bag made of unknown material. Meat. A big bag full of cooked meat. As werewolves, meat is the food they often eat, but they have never seen meat that exudes such a rich aroma. The smell of meat filled the entire shanty area. Not only the werewolves couldn't stand it, but even the trapped Terran farmers were lured to wake up. Sniffing the taste, swallowing constantly. The werewolves roared, they formed a circle and approached the meat bag. And the big werewolf rushed to the bag, gritted his teeth and drove his subordinates away with a fierce attitude. Idiots! Do you think there will be so much meat on this grassland that we can pick up for no reason? The big werewolf warned, someone must have put this meat there waiting for us to find it. He put it in there. Poison, as long as we eat it, we will die. The warning from the big werewolf made the werewolves a little more sober, but the smell of meat continued to seduce them. Swamp tribe is an uncivilized savage race. Not all werewolves can suppress desire with reason. Besides, the food in the swamp is not enough. Most of the werewolves are half hungry, and they can't resist the temptation of the smell of meat. The big werewolf guarded the side of the meat, and several werewolves tried to approach again. The big werewolf yelled and warned, and the werewolf also showed his fangs and showed a fierce attitude. At this time, a slightly older werewolf said to the big werewolf, "They are still young, they are too hungry. I suggest to find a farmer to try the meat. If he is poisoned to death, these young werewolves will be afraid." The big werewolf knew that confrontation like this was not a solution, and the young werewolf's resistance to this level of food was too low. If they relax a little, they will definitely rush to eat meat. The old werewolf's proposal might not be a good way. When these werewolves see human beings being poisoned to death, they will know that they are afraid. Go, catch a human farmer. A farmer was quickly brought to the front of the big werewolf. The big werewolf grabbed a handful of meat from the bag and spread his paws in front of the farmer, and ordered, "Eat." The hungry farmer grabbed the meat and ate it in a few bites. Still wanted to eat more, but was stamped to the ground by the big werewolf. Then the big werewolf shouted at several young werewolves, "Look at him! If he is alive when the moon reaches us, I will let you eat meat." "Yes, the leader." The young werewolves restrained their appetite greatly. They turned to stare at the farmer who had just eaten meat, with a fierce light in their eyes as if they were about to tear the farmer into pieces. The fate of the peasants caught by them was also eaten by the werewolves with their belt bones after death. The food in the swamp is too scarce. The Los Tatus werewolves can get less food, and many werewolf babies will be killed when they are born. Some old werewolves will also be driven out of the race because of their worthlessness. Werewolves can endure the temptation of ordinary food and insist on not being full, but the meat they picked up today is really fragrant. The peace was restored at night, and no werewolf could sleep. The big werewolf kept the meat bag firmly, while the other werewolves stared at the moon in the sky, making a wolf roar from time to time. As the night deepens, the moon moves slowly. The human farmers who tried to eat meat stared at the werewolves surrounding him, wondering what they were doing. The moon slowly approached the top of his head, and the wolves became anxious. No one was poisoned to death, and even no symptoms of poisoning appeared. At this time, even the werewolves who were able to restrain themselves at the beginning were frequently looking at the meat bag, secreting a lot of saliva. The big werewolf didn't know why the farmers who tried to eat the meat were not poisoned to death. He only knew that if he still stopped his subordinates from eating, these jealous werewolves would definitely attack him. Besides, the great werewolf couldn't stand the temptation of meat even after seeing that the human peasants had not been poisoned to death. "Is not poisonous, of course you can eat it." "Well, these meats are not poisonous." The big werewolf's words caused cheers from the wolves. The werewolves immediately gathered around the meat bag. After waiting for the big werewolf to grab a handful of meat and put it in his mouth, all the werewolves rushed to grab the meat. Has returned to Yangzing on the eastern slope, and after seeing through the telescope that the werewolf finally started to eat meat, he breathed a long sigh of relief. Just eat it, just eat it. Eat more to avoid insufficient toxicity. All that is left is to wait for the day to dawn. The Lord led his army to attack and fight the werewolf. A pack of meat with added dried fruits weighs more than 50 catties. Even if the 10 werewolves lay on the ground after eating, there was still a lot of meat left in the bag. The werewolves' stomachs were no longer stuffed, and they all sat on the ground enjoying the satisfaction of a rare satiety. At the same time aftertaste his mouth full of meat, licking greasy hands from time to time. They have never eaten such delicious meat. The meat is soft and juicy, and the taste is smooth and tender. It is a mass of minced meat on top of a burp, which is another gourmet aftertaste from the inside to the outside. Compared with that, the barbecue they had eaten before was a fishy smell, and they couldn't tear it. My heart is beautiful. Why is there no strength on this body? My stomach starts to churn, and I always feel like vomiting. And how come it started to turn this day? One night passed like this. The sun rises from the east, gradually illuminating the entire grassland. Yangzing stood up after lying on the for a night. He patted the weeds on his clothes and kicked Eddie and Lahans who were dozing aside. Go, get in the car. Follow the master and I will play. Sleep-eyed Eddie and Lahans immediately climbed into the tricycle's body and stood with both hands on the dung fork. Yangzing sat in the driving chair, drove his chariot to the top of the slope, and honked his horn to dive down to the shed below. The momentum is huge. Hikoyuki hurriedly drove the agricultural three-wheeler to the vicinity of the shed, then picked up the steel pipe and jumped out of the car. At this time, all the farmers who were stared blankly at Yangzing and his magical mount. And the werewolves fell to the ground in random directions. They all have their eyes open, but their pupils are dizzy, their bodies are straight and they jitter like seizures from time to time. The medicinal effect is amazing. It is not in vain, sir, I spent so much money to feed you so many braised pork. Now there is no one who can hit the entire shanty area. Yangzing kicks this and that with a steel pipe, and he can't beat it right away. Yelled at the same time, little ones, hurry up and release all the people of this master. Then tie up these werewolves, and use the rope that the master brought me, they are all tied up. There are bundles of nylon rope in the car of Yangzing. Although only the fingers are thick, it is stronger than the hemp rope used by werewolves to bind human farmers. Don't worry about the werewolf being and breaking away. The farmer was successfully rescued, and a reminder of the task completion appeared. You complete the mission, rescue the farmer's hut, you get the task reward, shack ownership, 14 farmers, 100 Gajavan gold coins, 1 unit of stone, 1 unit of wood, you gain experience, 2000 your level up, you gain reputation, 100 Yangzing obtained the ownership of the shed. UU reading www.uuganshu.com. The original 14 farmers in the hut, including Lahans, were officially owned by Yangzing. 100 Gajavan gold coins fell under Yangzing's feet, and about a party of stone and wood appeared around him out of thin air. Immediately after the end of this prompt, another prompt appeared. After a fierce battle, you have won a brilliant victory, you gain experience, 1400 your level up, you captured 9 werewolves, a big werewolf, you gain reputation, 100 according to your excellent performance in battle with 0 damage, reward experience, 1400 your level up, you get the weapon, werewolf chain, deterrent against werewolf +1, you get a Gajavan gold coin, 100 another piece of gold coins fell under Yangzing's feet. Simultaneous missions, battles and additional rewards allow Yangzing's hero level to win 4 consecutive levels to reach level 5. Yanxing, Human Race, Level, 5 Occupation, Night Lord Attack, 7 Defense, 11.5 Intelligence, 7 Knowledge, 7 Hero Specialty, What the People Want Hero Stunt, Elementary Training Junior Leadership Elementary Offensive Skills / Magic, Charge Collision Pray Blood Contempt Split Air / Shield Strike. Equipment, Werewolf Chain Shackle Achievement, Nun Reputation, 201.